A particular sense of urgency dominated current talks between 7 of the nation's top steel producers and the United Steelworkers Union. And today, Ike Pappas reports there was a dramatic development.
This Japanese steel is the specter that has hung over the contract negotiations, because this, an idle steel plant on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, represents the current state of steel in America. Over the past year, the industry has suffered more than $3.5 billion in losses. Some U.S. auto manufacturers had threatened to buy steel for their 1984 models from Japan and other foreign markets if an agreement were not reached by tomorrow. Pressure on the union for a quick settlement greatly increased over the weekend when word shot through the talks that U.S. Steel had placed a large order for cheaper steel from Korea to build a new Seattle high-rise. It was the last straw. With both management and labor hurting, neither wanted the talks to fail and opened the possibility of a ruinous strike when the contract expires in August. So for the past month, they've hammered at an agreement. And today, just hours under the auto industry deadline, it came. As expected, the contract approved by union negotiators contains major concessions to help the companies survive the recession. Included are lower wages, a temporary freeze on cost of living increases, and assurances by the companies that they would upgrade factories to keep steel orders in this country. Some 400 local union presidents gathered here are expected to approve the new contract, providing that the companies agree to make up for lost wages and benefits once the recession is over. Ike Pappas, CBS News, Pittsburgh.
Inspired by new orders in February and March, steelmakers expressed confidence that 1983 would be a comeback year for their depressed industry. That confidence melted in the blast furnace of reality. And earlier this month, U.S. Steel warned workers in 5 states that their jobs could be eliminated if they did not agree on more contract concessions. Today, as Ray Brady reports, the company made another announcement.
They call it Big Steel, the giant, but U.S. Steel today cut itself down to size, announcing plant closings just 2 days after Christmas that will cost the jobs of 15,400 workers, including many who are already laid off.
We take these actions in the best interest of our remaining employees, our stockholders, customers, suppliers, as well as in the best interest of United States Steel.
The company will fully or partially close as many as 19 plants in Chicago, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and other locations during the next year. U.S. Steel's chairman said the closings were caused by imports of foreign steel and high labor costs in this country. Workers had made major wage concessions, but at some plants they refused added changes in work rules wanted by management. Union reaction to today's announcement was swift.
It staggers our imaginations to imagine how there can be a prosperous America when you have policies which result in the destruction of the best jobs in America.
But while the outlook for steel may seem gloomy in the steel-making centers, on Wall Street they're telling a different story. They believe the closing of plants that are outmoded and obsolete will bring a big jump in steel profits in the years ahead. In fact, U.S. Steel stock has been one of the winners of Wall Street, shooting up from its low price of the year. Wall Streeters expect that with the economic recovery, steel shipments will jump from 67 million tons this year to as high as 84 million tons next year.
Compared to this year, the profits will be dramatically better, and I would think the profitability will be well over $1 billion more than that next year.
That is the profit picture for the steel industry. In terms of people, today's announcement means a cut of around 25% in the number of workers on the job or on layoff at U.S. Steel. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
It's supposed to be the season of hope, but here in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, hope is all but gone. U.S. Steel is shutting down its mill here for good, putting an additional 500 people out of work.
You've been in the mill all your life, and that's all you know why you're stuck.
For the city of Johnstown, already hard hit by steel layoffs in recent years, the closing could be the final blow. David Diamond opened this drugstore across from the plant 40 years ago. He's been losing his customers little by little. Now that the plant is shutting down, he's not just worried about his business, he's worried about the town.
Bad thing with the whole city is all that's left is the older people. And the young ones are leaving. The young people are the family men. This is what's affected.
But in Pittsburgh's Mon Valley, there was some cause for cheer. U.S. Steel won't be shutting down 2 plants here as was rumored, but there will be more cutbacks. Nearly 900 workers will be laid off. 1,500 more, like Mark Bauer, won't be called back. For Bauer, it's not only the end of a job, but the end of a tradition.
It was the 4th generation. Almost 100 years my family worked here. And it just seems like it's an end of a very long era for my family and a lot of others. So.
But for Bauer, at least, the wait is over. He knows what the present holds, so now he can plan for the future. Andrea Naverson, CBS News, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
U.S. Steel also announced today it has dropped discussions with British Steel Corporation to import steel from Britain. The plan was to import semi-finished slabs to finish at the Fairless plant outside Philadelphia. U.S. and British steel workers opposed the deal, but a company spokesman said it was called off for purely economic reasons.
Well, despite what is now a very strong economy in the country, there are some industries that have just never recovered, and the steel industry is one of them. As Stone Phillips reports tonight, steel workers in Weirton, West Virginia, have refused to give up despite the odds.
The steel plant dominates Weirton, West Virginia, but the dominant emotion here today is hope for people like Ed Weibel, an ex-steel worker who was laid off 27 months ago.
Oh, I'm very hopeful I'll get hired back on.
Hired back not by the company that laid him off, but by his fellow workers, who today bought the Weirton Steel Mill for $386 million, with plans to revitalize the plant and rehire hundreds of workers. Employees bought the mill after National Steel, its owner, threatened to close it down. It's the biggest employee takeover in U.S. history, and it became official today. A combination of bank loans, federal tax breaks, and local fundraising made the purchase possible.
This community is going to prove to the nation, to the country, to the world, that you can do it if you so desire.
The takeover, called ESOP for Employee Stock Ownership Plan, is going to require sacrifice. Workers won't get a pay increase for 6 years, and a 20% cut in wage and benefits will take effect immediately. In return, workers will get stock in the company and a chance to save the mill and their town. For generations, people in this town have worked and played together, and together they believe they can make the ESOP work.
I think it's the most important thing that ever happened to this valley. Being a 3rd-generation steelworker, I personally like the idea of being able to control my own destiny.
It was that kind of spirit that led Ernest Weir to build the mill and the town that bears his name.
Today he looks down again and very quietly and very humbly says, "We have built the foundations for good living for thousands of American families in the past, today, and in the years to come."
Weir could never have envisioned today's takeover. The workers who now own his steel plant are hoping to salvage his dream and secure their own futures. Stone Phillips, ABC News, Weirton, West Virginia.